Hi everybody, I hope you're keeping well and safe. I'm Jayney Goddard and I want to talk to you today about one of my most favourite techniques to rewind your body clock. Now, it's really interesting that there are so many ways of not just extending our lifespan, but also actually increasing our health span, meaning adding more healthy, happy, productive years to our lives. And so one of the things I want to talk to you about today is my favorite anti-aging technique. Now, as you know, everything I bring you is fully based in science and robust research. And this particular technique is one that I came across when I was watching a wonderful program actually on BBC TV, where they took a group of 5 elderly stars and immersed them into a 1970s environment. Now, it's not that there's something really magical about the 70s, although there were some quite magical things about the 70s. What it actually was is that these particular stars were quite elderly at this time, and what they did was they then immersed them into an environment, which happened to be the 1970s, where they felt that they were actually at their peak. So at their peak of career, at their peak of performance, at their peak of health and well-being, and so on. And so what actually happened was that they took measurements of these people, which are measurements generally associated to be age related. So things like a skin pinch test on the back of your hand, or looking at your height. Would you believe height is a marker of age? It's crazy to think that, but it actually is. Things like balance, things like blood pressure, blood sugar, and so on and so on and so on. So all these various different biomarkers of aging were measured. Now, they put these people into this 1970s environment, so the newspapers were from the 70s, the TV shows were all piped in from the 1970s shows. Even when they went into the kitchen and opened the cupboards, all the foods that were in there were in those 1970s packages. So it was a complete immersion. They kept these people in this environment for just 1 week. And when they came to repeat all of the aging tests, the biological age tests that they'd done with them initially, it was found that every single one of these people had rewound their biological clocks, not just a little bit, but by a whopping great 10 years in the majority of cases, some even more so, after just 1 week. Now, to me, that is absolutely crazy. So what I'm suggesting is that we try to use as many youth cues as possible. This is a term that I coined mainly because I couldn't think of a better way of explaining it, but cues that we can place around ourselves and interact with that really remind us of times that we were at our peak mentally, emotionally, physically, and more. So most people actually experience their big growth spurt around about sort of the teenage years. That's when our hormone levels are at their most active, our growth hormone specifically, which is very much related to youth and well-being. When growth hormone, human growth hormone levels are at their highest, our muscle to weight ratio is really superior. So we have less body fat, we have more muscle, we have more endurance, we have better cognitive functioning, and so on and so forth. So if we can harness ways in our lives of actually creating youth cues, it stands to reason that we're actually going to rewind our own body clocks back to a time when we were at our peak. Now, the way that I do this is several-fold. I've got a perfume that I used to wear when I was a teenager, and so I sometimes liberally spray myself or just spray it in the air, and it's very evocative. You know, smell is really evocative, isn't it? You know, it just whisks you back to a certain time. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing is to flip back through magazines that you used to read when you were a teenager. Now, I used to read a magazine called Jackie, which was all about all the pop stars of that age. They used to have all sorts of stories of you know, kind of like comic book stories, but with real photos in, and speech bubbles coming out of people's mouths and thought bubbles coming out of people's minds. And it was all about, you know, I love this boy, he doesn't know I exist, and so on and so forth. You know, all the things that really occupy a teenager's mind. But what they they've done with Jackie is they've actually created sort of versions of it, you know, kind of like retro versions that you can actually buy. And of course, there are other magazines and other media that have done similar things. And of course, thanks to the magic of the internet, we can also go back and look at popular culture things on screen that that were around during our teenage years. But my most favorite technique, and this is the one I've saved for you for last, because this is great, it's great fun and it really works, is go back to when you were a teenager and think about the bands that you listened to when you were a teen. Who really was it? Who were your pin-ups? Who did you really love back then? And then put that music on your player, whatever kind of player, headphones or, you know, record player, if you have such a thing. They're terribly trendy now, aren't they? Everybody's getting back into vinyl. But play the music that you listened to when you were a teenager and dance around to it. You know that I always talk about the best form of exercise is dance. So if you can, and nobody's looking, it's probably best if nobody's looking, dance around to it like a demented monkey and really enjoy yourself. If you can just keep doing that, that serves to give your body youth cues that will actually help to improve your hormonal profile. They'll improve things like your production of human growth hormone. It'll improve things like your muscle to weight ratio, muscle to fat ratio, blood pressure, and so on. It's almost too good to be true, but actually it's one of those things that I love because it really works. As always, please let me have your comments below. Let me know if you're going to try this or if there are any other youth cues that you enjoy incorporating into your life to rewind your body clock. Take care, lots of love, see you soon, bye.